This video is different than all the other ones. It's not about a specific topic about how to do a meditation or how to ground. This one here is about Janell and her backstory and what caused her to have the life experiences and to tap into who she was. It's very powerful. There's some emotional parts where, quite frankly, it's a side of her that you're not used to seeing. But in the end, what you get to see is why she became an energy healer and how she has that passion to help people like you bridge the gap from where you are to where you want to be through the methods of energy healing.
Hi, my name is Janell and I'm a thought healer. What really caused me to move or to understand or shift into this field of energetic healing. I was born with some incredible intuitive gifts. Hindsight's 2020, right? Because you look back and you think, oh my gosh, I could just feel animals. That was a world I was really comfortable in. And I was blessed to be born in the mountains and very rural areas, northern Idaho and central Oregon here. And the world that I was in there was a lot of wildlife, bear and cougar and bobcat, coyotes, jackrabbits, and then the bird of prey, then our horses, our sheep, our cows, our dogs, our cats. That was just my normal world, and I grew up in that, and I felt very comfortable in it. I could navigate that world. I could feel and sense. I'm highly empathic, highly intuitive, and it was easy. I would ride. I was a wild-haired, dark-haired gal and loved horses, very connected to the horse. And we had a big black horse named Sierra Sue. She was 16 hands. She was a thoroughbred quarter horse mix, and that's called appendix bred mare. She was my babysitter. She was the family's horse. She was my mom's horse, but she just really was the family's horse. And I would, as a baby, would just lay on her. And I have memories of just feeling her. I have a memory of that, and she was just huge. And I'm laying on her withers, and my arms I'm laying down, wrapped around the side of her neck, and I can feel her. And sitting with the bunny rabbit in its pen, Mom used to put me in there to keep me out from underneath the horse's feet when she was saddling and getting ready to ride. She would put me in with the bunny, and the bunny, from a 2-year-old or younger's perspective, is just huge. And I remember this gray bunny and petting, and I have memories of how soft this bunny is, but I can feel the bunny. So fast forward into school, I have an auditory processing disorder and I'm dyslexic. Did not know this. Go into school, now the world of words is completely confusing to me. And we're in groups of people and all these words. And it overwhelmed my senses. I took all this in. And not knowing this, what was happening, I began to shut it down as a self-protection technique. And struggling with reading, and I was getting the input that, you're failing, miserable, and everybody else can do this, but why can't I? And this whole reason, I didn't have a reason for it at the time, and the pain was very real. So that was translated as trauma and stored in my body, and again would shut down even other parts of my intuitive gifts. So now I'm navigating through school without these intuitive gifts, and our intuitive gifts are our compass, and the better we're connected to them, the better decisions we make that are in line with who we are. So a little sidebar. And I was shutting that down. So I see in hindsight how I would make decisions that were self-sabotaging to me because of this disconnect, and how I created a persona, if you will, of who I thought would be acceptable in this world that I was in, this human world, because I felt that what I was really, it wasn't fitting in. I didn't know what it was, but I could tell it didn't work. And therefore shutting it down. So let's create what I think will work. So you have this major separation from who I authentically was or am, and the gifts that I have, these disconnects. So I navigate, and I continue to struggle in school and struggle socially because of this disconnect from who I am in many ways. And on the other side of it, I am incredibly successful. I became a professional horse trainer at 17. I was riding from a very, very young age. I have pictures of me on Sierra Sue, the big black mirror, and I am moving cows, and I have legs, this long. And how do you stay on when your legs are that long? I don't even know. And you take galloping off after these cows and moving these cows, and it was just so much fun. There was nothing I couldn't do. My mind had that feeling. I just can do anything I put my mind to. And if you were to ask me, and what are you going to be, Janell? I would say, well, I am a horse trainer. It's not what are you going to be? I am, because I saw that already as something I was. So with this in mind, then I started a business at 8 years old with my mom. I was 7, 8, something like that. And we raised sheep. And through the years the ewes would have at least 2 lambs typically, and so I would keep one and sell one, and I was making my own money, and by the age of 12 I was buying my own school clothes, and because I wanted to, not because anyone said I had to. I loved the independence, and saving my money because I wanted to buy my own horse, not ride my mom's horses, but my own horse. So I did, and I would take that horse, and our neighbor said, you probably should go work with a horse trainer. So I did. And bless my parents, my mom was, she loved helping me. She didn't pay for everything. What she said, she goes, what I can do though is I can set it up so that you can do it and you can create this for yourself. So I saved my money, bought my own horse, saved my money, went to and lived with a horse trainer for a week with my sister. And she's like, wow, you girls know how to work. And I will let you work for me, and I'll in trade for lessons. I'm like, yeah. So it turned out I would spend the summers working, and I worked hard. And then I got lessons and training and riding my own horses. And I would take my horse to the horse show, and I would do, if the class was small enough, I would get a ribbon. I was literally last place every time, or nearly every time. And you know what? I never saw that. I never saw that I was coming in last place, ever. What I saw is that I was a horse trainer, because that's what I was. Not going to be someday, but was. And as the years go by, that's what, 6th grade, 7th grade, bought another horse when I was a freshman in high school. I was around 15, and again had that horse at the horse trainers. And by end of my freshman year, I'm starting to get into the ribbons. 3rd place, 2nd place, occasional blue. By my sophomore year, I am almost at the top all the time. So unless I just totally forgot a pattern, but I'm starting to win. I'm a horse trainer. And I go to this big show, and I would drive myself. By now, between my sophomore and junior year, I've got my driver's license, and I've got an avocado green van and a homemade horse trailer, safe, but you can imagine. And I'm hauling my horse and I to the horse shows. And I've got my mom's saddle. It's clean. I've got a bridle that I got for Christmas. It's clean. And I've got my mare that I have bought myself, trained myself, and worked and practiced, because I was a horse trainer and I was going to show up ready to go. And I would pull into this, and I'm at bigger shows, and I pulled into this one show and pull beside these big, gooseneck trailers and the trainers and all the silver and everything. I didn't even see it. I pull in beside this in my avocado green van and my homemade horse trailer, and back my own horse out of my trailer, tie her up to the side of the trailer, go sign up for my classes, warm her up, get her ready to go, clean her off, clean me off, get my show clothes on, and then get ready to go into the arena. I was a competitor. Why? Because that's who I was from my birth, I think. I could see it. I was that. And I did the work. And failure wasn't failure. Failure was, I wonder what I'm going to do next time to make that better. And that was just my mentality. And there's times now when I'm building my new businesses now, and I'm like, well, okay, let's bring that girl back, because you just don't see anything else except what you know you're creating. You know what you are. You know what you are. And I knew what I was. I walked into that arena with my mare. Her name was Shasta. And I lead her in, and I do a beautiful, flawless pattern. We were in showmanship, and I do this beautiful, flawless pattern with this mare. And they line us up, and they start calling our numbers. The judge has made his decision, and they start calling our numbers. And I'm like, I either totally lost this class or I've won this class. And there's 15 to 20 kids in this class. And they call, and it's down to second place, and it wasn't me. First place, it was me. I won that class. And the judge comes up to me and he goes, gal, he goes, you are one heck of a horseman. And he goes, you're a horsewoman, aren't you? And I said, yes, I am. He goes, did you train this horse? I said, yes, I did. And he said, I can tell. He says, you are the real deal. And that's who I am. I'm a horse trainer. I sold my horses because I had other things I wanted to do, and I wanted to travel the world. I wanted to go to and experience other cultures, and so I did. And hardest day ever was leading that mare. Hardest day ever was leading my beautiful Shasta mare into the trailer and saying goodbye. But because of her, I was on to my next dream, on my next picture, my next vision for who and what I was going to become. And I traveled the world. I lived in New Zealand. I lived in a year, and I lived in Australia for 3 months. I lived in Russia for 2 years and then worked, So I was on to my next adventure, and the money made from selling my horses, I was able to start to travel. And I traveled to and spent a year in New Zealand, and spent 3 months in Australia, 2 years in Russia. And in Russia, then I worked in a school teaching a ninth grade class, English. Not that I'm a pro in English by any stretch of the imagination. Studied the language. And worked with with a team, an international team, building shelters and so on for kiddos that were living on the street. Then went back and worked with that organization for 12 years, going back and forth, supporting that work. As I was there, we were also studying the Russian language and the culture, of course. We worked with a professor to learn the language and the culture. And as I'm studying with my roommate, she was from Australia. She has her doctorate in the English language, and her second is learning difficulties, learning differences. And as we study the language together, we're reading the text, and she says, asked me, are you dyslexic? And I said, no, I just really stink at this, because I was struggling to get the language. Everybody else in our group were picking it up, quite a bit faster than I was. And I was really frustrated with this, because it was like first and second, third grade all over again. My roommate said, no, I think you might read that sentence again to me out loud. So I did. She had me read it 2 or 3 times. And by then I'm kind of like, okay, what the heck, really? Are you just trying to torture me? She goes, no, I think you are dyslexic. And I'm 23 at the time. And she goes, what was first grade? What was first grade like? What was second grade like? And I said, oh my gosh, I struggled so much and really didn't learn a way of reading until the 3rd grade, and was never, and I'm still, at that time wasn't very good at it. She said, yeah, you're dyslexic. And I just cried, because for the first time in my life, I had an explanation for this struggle that had been so influential in my life. And now I had a reason for it. It just was an aha moment for me. Fast forward, now I'm starting to read about it, study about it, and everything I'm reading is like, okay, you got to disconnect all these, disability type information and dialogue about it. And I became a horse trainer, professional horse trainer again when I was 26, 27. And one of my clients was also dyslexic, and she gave me the book, The Gift of Dyslexia. And I read it and I said, that makes sense. That makes sense. And it really is about a different perspective, and it goes into how that affects the reading and writing, and because dyslexia can be reading, writing, math, and it affects your auditory as well. So that made sense to me, and I put those pieces together, and it was through that self-discovery that I went and took the trainings, did the correction courses for myself, learned to read. Within a week, I went from like a 3rd, 4th grade reading level to 9th, 10th grade reading. They only measure it to 9th really, but to 9th grade reading and beyond. And so it showed me, yes, this is, I'm on the right track. But it also showed me how my brain worked. And why is that so important? Is because now I'm no longer, I shut all these gifts down because I figured I was broken. My perspective was I'm broken. And no, I just work differently. And that's key to reconnecting to who you are, is the understanding what's going on and how do I work as me. So that opened up the door for becoming a learning specialist and walking with other people as they discover, well, how do you work? What's your cognitive process? What's your gift in this space? When I was training professionally, I was taking in clients. I was training horses. I was training people how to train their horses. I was training people how to ride, how to show. We had a band of kiddos that we put together called the Dream Team, and we took them to horse shows because I've always come from small towns and lived in small towns, except when I was traveling the world, I lived in some big cities. But where I grew up and where I was at the time of being a horse trainer was a small town. We're talking 250 people in the town small. And that was a guess because I really don't know how many people are in the town. It's small. I know that. And I wanted them to realize that even though you come from a small town, it doesn't mean you have to do small things. You can achieve anything that your mind can visualize. A lot of people have said that. I know Bob Proctor has talked a lot about that in his life, where he would say, if you can see it, you can create it. And many others have said that as well. And I my life is a testimony to that. I saw it, I was it, I did it. In whether it was horse training when I was a little girl, showing, travel the world. I didn't have a lot of money, and that's neither here nor there. Whether you do or you don't, it doesn't matter. If you can see it, you can do it. If you really see it, if you believe it, see it as if you are it, you can do it. And I wanted this group of kids that have come from this small area where you often think this is all I can be or all I can become. And I wanted to show them, at least open the door to their minds that you can do anything you put your mind to. And so we hauled them to horse shows. We had saddles. We had lining the beds of our pickup, Western on one side, English on the other. And here we were, a tribe, and we got matching shirts, and we would show up to these shows and we would compete together and then go home. And then I would train them. We had it was just a nonprofit arm of my professional business, my horse training business, with the purpose, with the goal to just embed in love a vision of what these kids could really do if they wanted to. And we had a blast. We even had a show. We actually put on show series then later and did some fun things like that with them too, for just experience, and they loved it. At the show barn, back at my indoor arena, I built an indoor arena, and I attracted outlaw horses. What would be labeled outlaw? These horses were aggressive to their people. So biting, kicking, running away, bucking, all sorts of great behavior. But I would have them, bring them in, and I would free move them in the arena. No human interaction, just free move them. And one of the gifts in my dyslexia is that I have just, innumerable pictures in my head and moving pictures in my head of how a horse should move. So the biomechanics, and I would watch a horse move, and I would put my mental picture over that horse and watch them move, and I could see what was biomechanically off. And that made me curious. Why is that happening? And I mentored with 3 incredible gals, vet out of our area, who had gone Eastern medicine, so acupuncture and herbs, but for animals, and then a horse chiropractor and a gal that did body work on animals. And I started bringing these horses to the team, and they would do what they did. And then I would come home, and the horses started to show me what was shifting in their body. I was seeing it. I could see where energy was stuck. I could see where the muscles were tight. I could just see and start to feel with my hands what was going on in the body. And I started releasing this, and the horses would go to sleep. So they would go get an acupuncture treatment, and then I would do the backstory, at the back, the support piece. And I even had horses, so the horses were getting that I got it. And matter of fact, it didn't take them long at all that I got it. And they would help me help them. Like I had this one big bay gelding that took my hands and his lips and he would move my hand where he wanted me to release that muscle group or move the energy through a stuck spot. And my gifts started to open up. So what I had closed down in my early years of school, the horses were opening up and activating even more gifts than I had before. I'm sure of it. So what I could see, what I could feel, the biomechanics of the animal, it was all coming together. So what the effect of that was horses were being healed. And so when we took the pain out, then we have to recreate some new behavior patterns sometimes, but they weren't in pain, and they were some of the smartest, most athletic animals that I ever gone in through the barn were those horses. And so this was my gifts being used, and I was successful with this. Was it an acceptable practice at that time? No. But it was because it was so new. This is 25 years ago. But it opened up a realization of what are intuitive gifts. And it started me on the journey of reconnecting to who I authentically am. So one of the chapters of my life was as I started to realize who I was as an energetic healer and starting to heal deep within myself, connecting to that authentic self. Well, as I connected to my authentic self, you connect to your compass. What resonates with you? What's truly right? Decisions that match. Oh, this is truly me. And I started not fitting in at all with the world I was in. And I was in a very religious space. I was married to a pastor, and what I was did not fit in to the world that I lived in. And I'm not ditching on that world. But my story is that I realized that this was caging me in, and in to really be who I was, I could not stay here. So I ended up divorcing my husband at the time, and when the day I got my divorce papers was the day I got my learning specialist license, and with the program that I studied and got licensed in, I received those both on the same day. It was like, here's your move forward card, and the freedom, the wings, literally my wings, to fly and to really now heal at a much deeper level, heal the trauma of being. When I was in this old system, my old life, there was so much you cannot be, you cannot do. This is our expectation of you, and we're going to try to control you. I was in a family that wanted to control me through speech and public shaming, and through public like, this is her, like they would speak these things that this is who she is, that weren't true. Maybe it was their truth, but it wasn't, definitely not my truth. And it was, she doesn't fit. We're going to try to mold her into what we are, but that wasn't who I was. And so the effects of that were intense, and to a place where I realized if this can't change, then I have to, for my well-being, I need to go. And so I did. And once I made that decision and I made that shift, as painful as it was, then I started reconnecting with people. I started connecting with people who were incredible healers, and I could ask questions and I could explore it at a whole new level about intuitive gifts and how do they work, and it just opened my mind to the expanse of their reach, at least the start, right? So a powerful part of my journey, and I think in journey work, we have these moments of course correction, these moments of painful decisions that we make for the greater good, for our growth, and for where we're supposed to be. And this was definitely a pivotal point for me. So I've been adding to my skills, adding to the different energetic modalities, reconnecting with other trainers to just keep building and expanding who I am as a healer. I've worked with the animals. I've worked and did the biomechanics, the body work of the animal on the animal, and then I've done the in the minds of the learning specialist hat, and then our thinking, our emotional part of us, and how does this all work together? And one of the patterns I've seen is that trauma separates us, whether it's the horse or the human. If you're animal or human, separates us from who we are, and we can now go back and we can heal that in the physical body, in the energetic body, and then how it has caused us to think. We can rewrite that. So what the effect of that is we're moving forward. So instead of people taking 20 years to get what I've accomplished today, being this connected to who I authentically am, I've created a system so that we can quickly move people to this instead of waiting 20 years. Let's get you there in 6 weeks. Let's get you there in a year's time, depending on what's the trauma and what are we working through, what layers are there, what's the goal, reconnecting to the gifts. That's where I'm at now, and helping people bring the animals in, let the animals help people like they helped me, and let people experience something that will change their world for the better, connecting them to who they really are. Our whole lives, when I look at my life and I look at what the different chapters that I've been living through, at the time I felt like when I was in school, like this is torture. Matter of fact, somebody said to me, dyslexia, the gift of dyslexia, and I laughed out loud. I'm like, there is no gift in this at all, through the perspective of that moment. But now I have a new perspective. When I look back at my life, I see that I was in training. Every chapter and every challenge within that chapter was my training ground. I was born intuitive, and I was born into a world of animals where I could develop that intuition in such a beautiful, natural way. I step into school, the challenge, the pain, the shutting down, that creating the different personas to try to protect myself were the training ground to help people undo, heal, release. How do you know what to do except I experienced it? So now I know everybody has their own story. Everyone has their own experience, but I walked a process in how do you reconnect yourself? How do you let that go? I have an understanding of that feeling of how it felt to be there, and now I know what it feels like not to be there. But if I wouldn't have had that piece in my life, that chapter, I'd have never felt that. I would have never been blessed with the experience of walking through that, so that I can also now help others walk through that. The horses and the travel, the world travel, and the many layers of amazing that came from that. The connecting with the horses, that really, they're the ones that touched me. I was helping them, I was training them, but they gave me the gift of reconnecting to who I really was. Learning specialist work, understanding the different way when you are given the gift of dyslexia, and it can come in, or an ADHD or a neurodiverse individual, you're given the gift of a different perspective. And how does your brain work, and working with that, and how does that connect to your intuitive gifts? It most definitely does. And that's a chapter I needed. I needed this pain of divorce. I needed this experience through this being caged and the being freed from that cage in such a, at the time, very challenging, traumatic, heart-wrenching experience. But it took that for me to really realize that this religious cage was not what I wanted. My faith and my journey and my to be freely who I really was over here. And it took the traumatic experience to really allow me to let that go and then grow, connecting to the right people at the right time. So looking back, can see I was totally guided, that every experience was for my benefit, was to help me, to heal me, to guide me, even as painful as it was, to guide me. And then the right people at the right time, with the right wisdom, with the right understanding, to train me and to walk me to where I am now. And I can put all of that together now and support people on their journey and their self-discovery. It was training me for today.